the girls of hip hop, Missy Elliott.
So
Little
I
Kim, I don't
too
know.
am the beneficiary of affirmative action, but it does not mean that I was not. Oh, here you go again. I thought we left that potato salad back in the last
For
episode.
Memorial. I mean, really?
What you say? What you talking about, Willis?
Okay.
This is the All Rev'd Up podcast, and we are back with season 8. This is season 8, episode number 1, and I'm Reverend Emmett Price.
And I'm Reverend Irene Monroe.
Before we jump into our conversation on It Was Kamala's Time, we thank our new sponsors of the podcast, Africana Studies at Berkeley and the Black Christian Experience Resource Center. We especially thank each of our listeners and viewers. We have had a good time with you over the last 7 seasons, and we are so excited for some new opportunities, and new engagements, and some new approaches to sharing dialogue and conversation with you in this 8th season. We're grateful for the special invitations to attend events and speaking engagements, and even some live episodes that you have invited us to. We are grateful, grateful, grateful. Thank you for listening to us over the various podcast apps and for watching the actual live recording of the podcast on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your reviews and your comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And to top your thank you, I'm going to say a tsunami of thanks I send your way as our audience. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we want to thank our phenomenal producers, Kyla Wright and Cavante
Yeah,
Smalls.
that's right. Woo, woo, woo. I think we're revved up.
I think we're revved up. We're ready. We're ready. We're ready. Well, let me see if I can get you to tell this story, Irene, because there is a published piece. And listeners, if you're interested in this story, go to your search engine and type in "When I Accidentally Outed Nikki Giovanni" by Reverend Irene Monroe. Irene, tell us this story. Tell us this story real
Oh
quick.
my God. Oh my God. I will always remember this here. And she died for folks to
Yeah.
who don't know. She died this past December on the 9th. And I learned about it actually on the internet here. But let me just tell you this story very quickly. And at first, let me say this first before I tell you how I outed her. I loved Nikki Giovanni long before I loved Toni Morrison. Okay, I love Nikki so much that I wanted to go to Fisk University because I was hoping it would make me smart like her. And during back in the day when I would listen to a scratchy vinyl album, one of my favorite poems by her was Ego Tripping here. But let me just fast forward to the 2000s here. I was invited to deliver an address on religion and homophobia at Virginia Tech. I was ecstatic beyond belief here because Nikki Giovanni taught there. And when I met her, I'm going to be quite honest with you, Emmett, I thought I was going to faint. I meant to shake her hand, but instead I curtsied. And while bowing my head and cursing, I said, "I've been a fan of yours for decades," and she just smiled back very, very warmly. But the long and short of this is that there was a shooting at Virginia Tech in 2007, and I wrote an article about it, and I was saying that we write these articles as if LGBTQ people don't exist. And I said, we need to start lauding our LGBT heroes and sheroes. Case in point, Nikki Giovanni. Woo, child, an avalanche. Now, mind you, when I went to meet, yeah, and do mind this, when I went to Virginia Tech, Nikki Giovanni said one of the reasons why we came, we wanted you to talk about this issue. She introduced me to her spouse that now, she survived, the spouse is alive and Nikki has gone on to heaven and stuff. But yeah, we lollygagged that night, had dinner, just as we were doing, just lollygagging and just out as we can be. And I realized, that as LGBTQ people, even today,
Yeah.
we live bifurcated lives. That what we do socially and personally does not cross over to professionally. And just because I'm out on all fronts, I totally forgot. Woo, what an avalanche that was. I cried all through it, Emmett, and you could see how that could happen. I hope the audience can see as well.
Well, audience, if you want to read about it, again, go to your search engines. When I Accidentally Outed Nikki Giovanni by Reverend Irene Monroe.
And I just need to say this. If you got a secret, don't tell
Don't
me.
tell her. Don't. Check this out.
But let me explain this how this works, okay? As a black woman in America, if something happens and somebody does something, then it's like, I understand I didn't do it, but we gotta address the things for everybody else. So this is the box that we're in. I understand there are white women out here that voted for Kamala Harris, but baby, 52% of y'all voted for Donald Trump, and this was not the first time. So now, for the third time, so y'all gotta come together and address it internally. So I understand you didn't do it, but enough people did, but y'all gotta have a conversation.
On Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, the United States of America voted 58% for President Donald Trump, leaving 42% for Vice President Kamala Harris in a decisive victory for the MAGA Republican. Irene, now that we are weeks and months away from the day after, what did this say about who we are as the people? And what does this say about the folks who were talking Kamala, but perhaps didn't vote Kamala? Irene, we'll do another episode later about where the nation is headed under the presidency of President Donald Trump. But for now, let's look back and reflect on what the results of the presidential election say to the nation and to the world.
Well, Emmett, I've had much time to reflect here. I poured all my energy and time and money into the Kamala campaign. I even did a PSA, a public service announcement, which we will share with the audience, so they could watch it if they want to reflect on a better time. But I need to say this, and I say this very seriously. I feel that as a child of the civil rights movement, I've been black too long to get upset with this new form of white supremacist, reconstituting and ruling the White House. I would have had tears of joy had Kamala won, like when Obama did. She did a superb job with a 107-day campaign. Now let's realize this. She did a superb job with a 107-day campaign. And really, and honest, Emmett, it's the way that we black women make a way out of no way. I got nothing but love for having seen another black woman work her black magic. And I say this in particularly where just the other day, a felon was convicted who will occupy the White House.
A double felon.
Okay, thank you. A double felon. And I want people to understand the juxtaposition of this. A double felon. And as a felon, now you can't work at Mickey D's, but yet this man is going to occupy the highest office in the nation. I mean, you go figure. Come on, work with me.
I
Emmett.
mean,
What
you
do you
know, and I'm going to come back to this felony piece and the idea of all of the legalities that went into an outcome that there is no punitive response, no punishment for this fellow. But we'll come back to that. Interestingly enough, I go back to the election of President Joe Biden
Thank you.
and the entire campaign. His bullet point, and the main bullet point that hit the black audiences, was that he was going to be a one-term president,
Come
and
on
that
now.
he was going to select a black vice president, particularly a black woman vice president, who he was going to spend his first term and only term as president, setting her up to
That's right.
be, in essence, the incumbent.
That's right.
Now, you just quoted 107 days.
107 days. That's right.
So no one's talking about the breach of this contract that President Joe Biden had with black America. And matter of fact, not even black America, black
Oh,
women. No, black women. that the breach of the contract that he had with black women because y'all showed out to vote him in.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all showed out.
Oh
Even
dear.
even over the brothers. Y'all showed out to vote him in, and he did not keep his word. So I'm interested here in the dynamic of everybody asking, how come Kamala didn't do this, and she should have, would have, could have done this, and she messed up and done it. No,
Right.
he messed up.
That's
He's
right.
the one who breached his contract.
That's right. And he's of that long trajectory, that century long trajectory of white men who cannot relinquish power. Whether you're on the liberal side or the progressive side or you're on the conservative side. You know, Kamala Harris, as life of VP, I mean, I'll always remember this because I was in P Town. I remember it was Saturday, July 20th, and we were there campaigning for Joe Biden. And it was very, very interesting because, everyone in the room there, this was at Provincetown, and this was the Biden Victory Fun event at the Pilgrim Monument and Provincetown Museum. And everybody in the room was saying, this was July 2nd, I always remember, July 20th, Saturday, July 20th, and all of us were saying, we hope, Biden drop out, Biden, and that was July 20th. And then come that Sunday, a 180 turn just in those 24 hours. On July 21st, the news broke that Biden was leaving the campaign, which we were just absolutely elated. But then we were in this mad race. This was not a marathon.
Right.
This was a sprint here. And then, so what happened, if you remember, Emmett, that night, I'll always remember that this organization, Win with Black Women, over 40,000 of us sisters were in attendance. It was a 3-hour Zoom call, and we raised over $100 million to help, spearhead, to fund her campaign here. I'm telling you, as Black women, we ran this race with everything here. I was elated because I immediately, I have to just say, thought of my Congresswoman,
Shirley Chisholm.
that provided this moment for her. But I also had to remember, here again, given a grand opportunity, but not enough latitude, not enough support, not enough time, not enough anything to really run a robust kind of campaign here. But what we could see, what bothered me most, is that we could look at her negativity. It really bothered me, the audacity for Trump, and I don't want to use his name too much, to say, is she running black this time? It resonated, the whole thing, with Obama. Is he black enough? I mean, she struggled enough as a black woman who went to a historically black college, as being a black woman in society, trying to reach the high echelons of power, to then come against someone like this guy who be honestly, had 7 years to run and lay out his platform.
Irene, you hit something right on the head, and I've been trying to hold back and retain it because you said that she wasn't given enough time, enough latitude, enough support, enough resource. And just about every black executive in the last year or two who either has been ousted, who has been moved, who has been removed, who has been reassigned, whether it's the president of Harvard University, Dr. Claudine
Okay.
Gay, whether it's the the former head coach for the New England Patriots,
I
Gerard Mayo,
know.
not enough time, not enough latitude, not enough resources, not enough support. Like you hit it. You hit it on the head.
But you have to, because what we're really talking about is the way in which 2020, when George Floyd had died, gave us a sense of optimism, particularly with the rollout of DEI. But then we began to see the short shelf life of DEI. And then when we sort of look at it in a much more structural way, which we were hoping for some structural change, is that, oh, that was just throwing us a bone in reference to the egregious ongoing killing of black men, where it just reached a summit with the killing of George Floyd.
Right.
We got to understand that in some ways we see the redoing of Reconstruction over and over again, where at a moment when something is at its lowest, they will throw something that will only have a shelf life of 2 to 4 years, and then they will recoil. So what gains did we get? We got a lot of CEOs for a moment, at least here in Boston, because we got to understand that this here land here professed to be the epicenter of liberation and liberalism. But even here in Boston, we see where we had black CEOs, but they're all gone.
Yeah.
As you said, we had a black coach for the Patriots. He gone. As they say, he gone. Okay. There was this. Yeah, we had Claudine Gay. She gone. I mean, so the point is here, and I'm worried about you, Emmett. Okay, I'm worried about you. Okay.
Look, we on that note, because I have been gone from another place. But on that note, we're gonna take a break. But on our way out on this break, Los Angeles, we love you. We love you,
Yeah.
Los Angeles. We'll be right back. This is the All Rev'd Up podcast.
I mean, if you told me the 15-year-old me would be on stage supporting a prosecutor and a teacher, there is no way that I would have believed you. But because of that, I made assumptions about Kamala's record. And I often repeated them to a lot of people. Then one day, Kamala invited me to her house. She put her hand on my shoulder and she asked me to do some research. Something I had never done. Something a lot of people I know had never done before. Imagine attacking someone's character without a single Google search. So I did what I should have done in the first place. I learned that she had done for us exactly what she promised to. I believe that your apology should be as loud as your accusation, and I'm here apologizing in front of the whole damn world.
This is the All Rev'd Up podcast, episode number 1, season number 8, and we are excited to be back. You just listened to or saw D.L. Hughley, comedian, artist, activist, producer, at the 2024 Democratic National Convention, offering both his support and an apology for the things and the ways that he thought about Vice President Kamala Harris. In our first piece before the break, you heard Simone Sanders Townsend on MSNBC's The Weekend from November 9th, 2024. Irene, you wanted to cue up a conversation that you're passionate about. Talk to us.
Yeah, I want to talk about the black male vote because it matters here. And the interesting thing here, when I would talk with folks about the reason why Kamala didn't win, they would always bring up about black men. And I explained to them that that is a constant trope of pitting black men and black women against each other. So why should we be surprised at this consequential moment we would see this trope rise its head again? But one of the things I wanted to bring out is that because there was so much misinformation about black male voters, that BET in October, immediately after, because they wanted to really shut it down, and wanted folks to the black community come out, as we always do in large numbers here. And so BET had a Black Men Summit, and it was hosted by D.L. Hughley. And the wonderful thing that folks don't understand is that millions of black men were not only were at the summit, but also tuning in. And they addressed 7 issues: Harris's record, protecting our community, confronting sexism, the state of the economy, economic opportunity, not only for white people, but for black men and women, and what it means to protect black women in a white supremacist and violent moment such as this. And what I loved about it is that black men said, I should say my party, the Democratic Party, take black votes for granted, that their vote was transactional. We want something to prove for it. We want that if you get our vote, we want this, and we want to itemize our issues here. So I thought that it was excellent and that it brought attention. They weren't going to vote for Donald, and that small percent that did vote for Donald, they always vote one way or the other. And so he picked up a little more. But overwhelmingly through the years, black men have always backed black women politically.
I mean, I'm so glad you said that. And, I have the privilege of being able to block out the white noise.
Good for you.
I mean, I literally have the privilege to be able to say that y'all are over here talking about me and my people, my brothers, my siblings, my people, and I'm actually not going to engage you because the conversation that you're having is foolish, and I just don't have extra time to engage in foolish conversation. But I'm glad what you just said, because the data points reveal that black women voted 90% for Kamala Harris, and black men voted 80%
That's right.
for Kamala
That's
Harris,
right.
right? And so, not that we even need to defend our vote or defend who we voted for, but all of that white supremacist tactic of breaking up black communities, breaking up black families, creating differential and kind of disrespectful narratives, even amongst black diasporic people,
Thank you.
to have folks from the Caribbean not want to be in fellowship with black people from the continent, with black people from the UK, with black people from the United States. Those are all tools of white supremacy, because when we're together, we are absolutely powerful.
And have
And the
always.
power that we see is the resiliency and the persistence to continue to stay alive
That's
in
right.
this white supremacist world.
And what a lot of folks don't realize, that as black people, we take the vote quite seriously, because
Very
it
serious.
wasn't until it wasn't, let's tell the truth, it wasn't until 1965, the Voting Rights Act, that was passed, that black people, all of us, because I know they like to say that women got the vote in 1920. Well, white women did, and then they like to say, well, what we call the Reconstruction Amendments, 13th, 14th, and 15th, gave black men the power to vote. Not at all. And we're still dealing with how even the passing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is constantly being chipped away. We see that. So we take the vote very seriously, because we also remember the freedom rides down in Mississippi trying to register people to vote. So lives have been lost. Lives have been lost. And thank God when John Lewis was going across the Pettus, bridge, he almost, he didn't lose his life, but could have, again, trying to get black people the right to vote. So there's always been acts to disenfranchise us. But I just want to say this about Harris here. She did something that no president has ever done. She traveled around the country talking to black men. She sat and had an interview with Charlamagne the God on the Breakfast Show, okay? Because she realized that black men's concerns have been neglected for too long, okay? She even had this agenda called Opportunity for Black Men that was specifically devised to remedy the persistent challenges black men face. There has been no president at any time that intentionally said, this is an agenda that speaks specifically to the lived reality of black men in this country. I agree with you. That kind of propaganda, that kind of talk always goes on when you want to divide and conquer. The bigger issue is that white America voted for this man, and we as black people have seen this kind of presidency long, long before this moment.
Long before this moment, and that's why I don't get upset. That's why I don't have anxiety over this thing. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, and I am proud of Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I am excited for her future. Now she gets to go on and do whatever she wants to do with the rest of her life and not be burdened by the issues and the concerns of this nation. I hope she thrives in this next season. I love my dear sorority sister, and I wish her the very best. Irene, you have the final word this time. You have
Yeah.
the final word.
Yeah, I have an ode to black women. And what I want to say is that kudos to the brothers and sisters, but there was a sisterhood of women that worked for on Kamala's campaign tirelessly. And this is what I learned from the campaign, because I was a bit despondent and fatigued. And I learned this here. And it could be because today's my birthday, so I had
Happy birthday.
to reflect, but that liberation and freedom are not the same. Liberation is a process. Freedom is a temporary state of being. Liberation is dynamic and it never ends. Rest, however, is freedom we give ourselves. It fosters a sense of personal power. But rest is also resistance. As Black women, our worth does not reside on how much we produce, especially in a system that exploits and dehumanizes us. Rest is the simplest form that we can show as self-love, because it is an act of resistance and is a reclaiming of power, because it also really asserts our most basic humanity, and that is, we are enough. We are enough. The world has asked us to mend what has been long broken, to carry the world on our backs as if our backs could never be broken. We have carried a political party on our backs through some of the most challenging presidential elections in American history. Our unwavering commitment and our resilience has kept this nation moving forward even when it hasn't reciprocated the love, the loyalty, or respect we have poured into this nation. But as Black women, we are so much more. We are architects. We are strategists. We are leaders. We are creators. We are visionaries. Our power is ancient and deep because we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. They remind us what it means to resist, to persist, and to thrive. They also remind us that to forge a new path to freedom is also taking care of ourselves first. It is what we must do. It is a health imperative. It is a justice imperative for our health, for our world, for the generations ahead. We must not let the world burn us out or run us out. We are neither a martyr or a mule, nor the fuel for transformative change. We must love ourselves, and we must love on ourselves, and then rest. Ashe,
Ashe.
and amen.
Amen. Not a martyr, not a mule, not the fuel. Happy birthday, baby!
I didn't wake up dead today.
Hey! All Rev'd Up is brought to you by us, the Revs. Our amazing producers are Kyla Wright and Cavante Smalls. Sponsors include Africana Studies at Berkeley and the Black Christian Experience Resource Center.
Music for this episode is from Emmett G. Price IV. All Rev'd Up is distributed by GBH.
Additional thanks to Elizabeth O'Brien Gardner, Devin Robbins, Meredith Neerman, and Zach Waldman.
If you like what you hear, let us know. Give us a review on Apple Pod and follow us at All Rev'd Up Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Feel free to send us a note, a question, a comment, or an invitation at allrevduppod@gmail.com. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another episode of All Rev'd Up.